In this video, I want to talk about the wars that are going on in the world and the war that is likely to come in the coming year, and also how that can have a huge impact in your life as someone who is living in Nigeria and how that can affect Nigeria as a whole. And of course, if we look at what has been going on in Ukraine right now, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and how that exponentially affected the price of grains and the price of food. And of course, now I'm sure the very bread that I used to enjoy, there's a bread I would normally enjoy. I mean, of course, we have inflation across the board, but this very bread used to sell for around 350 naira. Now that same bread sells for around 1,900 naira. So that's more than 3 times the price. But that's not just the case. That's not just what we're looking at in this instance. We have a situation in our hands where there is a new rising world order. When we have the BRICS guys, we have the guys at BRICS, we have Russia, we have China, and of course the US has its place as a leading economic power, and of course the dollar is the global reserve currency. But the thing is that a new boss is in town to challenge the authority and the dominance of the dollar. And the truth of the matter is that if you study across history, there has never been a time where a world power went down without a fight, without a war. And there is really no way for a new superpower to emerge without war. It takes wars to have a new superpower and to have a new dominant currency. It takes wars to actually set these things up. So if we look back after the Second World War in 1944, the United States dollar became the global reserve currency. They sat down on Bretton Woods and all of these things, and it became the reserve currency of the world. And in recent times, of course, that has come under threat. And if you look at what's going on, the war in Gaza, there's war in Ukraine, there's war in South Sudan, there's the guys at Iran are having their own issues and tensions here and there. If you just look around you all over the world, you notice that there are factions, and the only thing that is now missing in all of, and the funny thing is that the United States is involved in all of these wars. The United States is involved in Israel, the United States is involved in Russia, the United States is involved in all of these places fighting by proxy. But the thing is, it's only a matter of time before the United States gets fully involved and they are sucked into the war. And if that happens, we don't know how that is going to happen. We don't know what it's going to lead to. So now looking at that instance, you have China, you have Russia, you have these two emerging superpowers. If something happens, and of course, the Chinese government has told its military to prepare for war. The British government is recruiting Africans into the army. If something happened in August, I'm not sure if you're aware, but something happened in August where the British government had an opportunity to say, oh, Africans can now come and serve in their military. They are recruiting people into their army. And of course, I think one top military guy in Britain said that Britain has to prepare for war. When you start to hear statements like this, something is going on somewhere. There is something that these guys at the very top know that we don't know. The United States, for instance, has an incredible amount of debt. I mean, this year alone, there was a time they had to print $1 trillion just to service the interest on their debt alone. When you have a situation like that on ground where the US is mounting heavy debt, one of the only ways that they can probably cancel out all of the debt that they owe is to start a fight. If they start a fight starts, all of these things, you know what, everybody's debt is canceled, let's go back to zero, all of these things, a global reset comes in. But it's not going to happen without a fight. Now, why this concerns you as a private individual, or why this concerns you as a Nigerian, is that Nigeria has a big trade relationship with China. If something happens and China is at war, and Nigeria is unable to trade with China and unable to trade with, let's say, countries like Russia, unable to trade with these countries or America because we are at war, because those countries are at war, how do you think that is going to affect the prices of goods and services right here in Nigeria? How do you think that is going to play out? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be massive. Now, you can call me a conspiracy theorist, you can call me all of these things, but when you look around the world, you start to see that you can start to see these things, and the only thing missing right now is a link for all these wars currently going on right now. Is the link to what's going on in Israel and Gaza. It's the link to Russia and Ukraine. Now they've started in Iran. All of these things, it is just the missing link. And mind you, the United States is involved in all of these things. If that is going to be the case, you as a Nigerian citizen, how do you prepare for what is to come? Because if that happens and we're unable to trade with China, we're unable to get goods and services from China like we might have to find alternatives. And guess what? If that kind of war starts in China, there has been growing tensions between China and Taiwan in recent times. And I can assure you, if China tries to annex Taiwan, just like Ukraine annexed, Crimea, the US is going to do everything in their power to defend Taiwan. The US will be forced to go to war in Taiwan. And if that happens because there's war between China and the US and Taiwan and all these proxy wars and these types of situations that we have, because there has been growing tension in those areas, if that happens, that would ultimately mean that it is going to be difficult for us to trade with those regions and trade with those people in those places. And if we can't trade with them, ultimately the price of goods and services are going to go through the roof here. So it means that whatever type of inflation we are seeing now is child's play compared to what is going to come. That is just the honest truth. So one way or the other, you have to prepare. And I mean, I'm not the one that will tell you how you're going to prepare. You might want to learn a skill. You might want to learn a skill that helps you earn foreign currency. You might want to save up. You might want to cut down on your living expenses. You might want to do a whole lot of things. And this is exactly where the tenacity of the president is going to be tested. This is where his street smart sense is going to be tested, because when these type of situations come up, you are going to have to make decisions that will have to protect your people. And of course, I mean, he's a very political person. You're going to have to make decisions that will have to protect your people if you're interested in protecting your people. And of course, you're going to have to make decisions that will also cement your place as someone who handled the nation and piloted the nation through such a terrible time. So the honest truth is, I don't know. I don't know what angle you're looking at it from, but wherever angle you're looking at it from, please, I mean, do well to leave a comment. But whatever angle you're looking at it from, just know that it's not going to be funny in 2025. And the interesting thing is that we have an election coming up in the US. Now, this election that is coming up in the US, if Kamala wins, most likely she's going to continue on the path that Democrats have set already. She's most likely going to continue on that path. And if for some reason Donald Trump wins, Donald Trump might seek alternatives. He might not want to go to war. He might, try to seek out, diplomatic ways to, to resolve things, because I mean, he was practically the only United States president who did not go to war. He found a way to sort things out with North Korea. So he might find an alternative way to sort things out in Ukraine and Russia and all of these things. He might find an alternative way. But regardless of what happens in 2025, the place of the United States as, the leading power is under threat, and also the place of the dollar as the global reserve currency is under threat, and America is going to do everything in their power to defend that. No world power is going to go down without a fight. And if they go to the war and also win, the US retains its place. The US retains the dollar probably for another 100 years. That definitely is going to span beyond our lifetime, and hopefully we'll have a debt reset. And of course, debts are forgiven and all of these things. And maybe we might chart a new course in history. I'm very curious to see what the comments are going to be under this post, because this is going to YouTube. Some portions of it might be going to Facebook as well. So I don't know if you stayed long enough to listen to it up to this point, but if you did, a very big kudos to you. Please subscribe, leave a comment, share the video. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.